let's talk about all the buzz around honeybees. The western honeybee, or Aphis mellifera, is the bee species most of you are familiar with. Don't let their name fool you. They can be found on every continent except Antarctica and are believed to have originated in Africa or Asia. Just like with birds, bees also start with the egg. Did you know that honeycombs are not just for storing honey that will be used later for food, but are also a nursery for housing all the eggs? A single egg is placed inside each hexagonal cell and sealed. The eggs hatch and a baby bee, a larva, emerges without eyes or legs yet. They remain in their hexagonal cell being taken care of by worker bees who act as nurses. The babies feed on the honey for about a week. Then a nurse bee will seal them in their hexagonal cells. This is the time when the baby bee spins the cocoon, undergoing their final metamorphosis and becoming an adult bee. Each hive has a single queen, and she is responsible for laying all the eggs. While the majority of bees live short lives of only a few weeks to a few months, depending on the season, the queen lives 3 to 5 years. The vast majority of bees who hatch will be worker bees. They are responsible for everything from taking care of the hive to nursing young bees to foraging for pollen and nectar. Their age denotes what their job is. For example, older worker bees are the ones who leave the hive to forage. Worker bees are essential to honey production, each one working incredibly hard, but ultimately only producing very little honey themselves. Though it varies, most bees only make about 1/12 a teaspoon of honey their entire life. I don't know about you, but I find it heartbreaking to think that they only make 1/12 of a teaspoon in their life, and yet when someone buys a jar of honey, how many lives did it take to make that? Honeybees have a delicate sense of smell, and it is just one way they find flowers. They also have very sophisticated eyes, and not just 2 eyes, but 5. They are able to see ultraviolet patterns that humans are unable to see. They can see and smell flowers, but did you know they can also feel for flowers from far away? Flowers have electromagnetic fields, and bees can feel them with their sensitive hairs and antennae. Did you know that bees dance to communicate? It's called a waggle dance, and they do it to let others know there is more nectar or pollen. Honey is essential to bees. It is their source of nutrition and energy. During cold seasons, when there is little to no flowers in bloom, honeybees rely on their stores of honey to survive. They will huddle together inside the hive to keep their body temperature up and eat the honey until it gets warm again so they can once again venture out to forage. It is also used by nursing bees to feed the babies to ensure they are getting all the nutrients they need. The colony works together as one to make and store honey for the entire hive. This is how honeybees live in their natural habitat. In honey production, a normal practice is to clip the queen's delicate wings so she cannot leave the hive. The bee's queen is often replaced once a year by killing her and introducing a new queen who may have been shipped across the country from a bee farm. Her life is cut short from the 3 to 5 years she would live in the wild to just maintain honey production for human consumption. When honey is stolen from the bees, smoke is often forced into the hive. This overwhelming experience subdues the sensitive bees while they would otherwise be on alert to protect their hive. They are literally disoriented, unable to communicate to each other, and confused. Unable to protect themselves and their hive, their honey is unnecessarily taken from them. The beekeepers will also regularly hurt or kill bees in the process of obtaining honey. With the bees being subdued, large screens containing the honeycomb are pulled out of the hive. This will painfully crush or tear apart a bee, removing their legs or wings in the process. It doesn't matter if someone is a backyard beekeeper or taking honey on a commercial level. It is impossible for them to avoid this harm. Because of this, many of us do not consume honey since we do our best not to contribute to the pain and suffering of others. Veganism is wanting to be sure not to cause unnecessary harm to non-human animals, from birds to bees. Honey is pretty easy to avoid and is easy to replace. There are many alternatives to honey that do not involve using honeybees, including maple syrup, agave nectar, date paste, and rice syrup.